Hello, and welcome back to the Indie Beginning Podcast, where we bring new tales to story lovers written by independently published authors. It is our mission to help indie authors grow through reviews and dialogue. This episode is brought to you from the wonderful people over at Burial Grounds Coffee Company. Today I'm sipping a cup of Death Star, a medium roast brewed from Peru's single origin Arabica beans. Grab your own bag at burialgrounds.coffee. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting platform and leave a review. Today we share the beginning of Scott Carruba's dark urban fantasy Dance of the Butterfly, about two warring families that must uphold a secret duty to protect humanity from a common enemy. This story chases danger, secrets, serial killers, and savage influences. Normally this is the part of the show where I write a brief bio of our featured author, but I have to admit I loved how Scott wrote his so much that I will steal it right from the author. Don't worry, he gave me permission. Born in Houston, Texas into the temporary care of a bevy of nuns before being delivered to his adopted parents, Scott discovered creative writing at a very young age when he was asked to write a newspaper from another planet. This exercise awakened a seemingly endless drive. Scott still resides in Texas and is currently working on the third novel in his series. You can find his books on Amazon. He glances down at the tracks, peering over them for a moment, the collection of depressions heavy in this copse, depicting a recent scurry due to some excitement. He stays there, crouched, thick legs bent at the knee. Then he inhales. He catches the scent of the spore nearby. The air is crisp, cool, eager to carry smell and sound. He raises his rifle, a custom-modified FN-FAL, but he does not bring it up to aim, still peering out into the distance over the land. Trees block his view in many directions, growing thicker further out. His eyes move quickly, narrowing. It is apparent, sudden, and he easily identifies it as the sound of many feet running towards him. He hears the panting not long after, but he does not yet smell the beasts. They are approaching, downwind, of his own position. He turns booted feet shifting in place, then raises the weapon, his knee dropping to the ground as he tucks the butt of the rifle into his right shoulder, his left elbow resting on his other leg. His movements display a smooth, practiced ease. He peers through the small scope, waiting, breath flowing calmly. The pack of wolves comes into view about 50 meters away, healthy beasts running tightly together, the alpha in the lead. They lope easily up to the gentle incline towards his position. These are the ones he has been tracking, and they have found him. He continues looking through the scope, the green shade to its lenses helping to bring greater focus. Both eyes remain open, increasing his field of view, indicating his lack of focus on the specific target. The barrel of the firearm moves, sweeping, seeking prey. The wolf pack continues its approach, quickly covering the ground. Just before they reach him, he lowers the weapon, and they move in, their posture not one of aggression, and they move up close, seeking attention. "Nothing out there, He speaks, his voice mid-range bass. He pats the alpha on the left side as the animal presses into him a moment. They display excitement. He finally looks down, a light smile taking his lips. "All right then, work's done. Go. Hunt." He emphasizes the command and the pack emits a few eager sounds and heads out. He stands moving his bulk to the upright posture with an ease that suggests a good deal of muscle. He lets his eyes follow the direction of the beasts as they appear into the trees. He glances about again, exhaling slowly, scanning the area before he finally turns to head back to the house. The Victorian mansion holds place like a sentinel in the clearing. The expanse of property on which it stands covers many acres, most of which gives way to the trees. The forest becomes denser as one moves further from the estate. Hints of Gothic and Baroque show themselves in the detailing in columns. The front entrance beckons, but he does not approach that way, coming in from the west side and heading for the rear entrance. The ground slopes downward, giving a suggestion of the hidden, though the secrets within the home are much better occluded than his door. He passes through easily enough, the sophisticated security system having already identified him. He removes the dark watchman's cap, then adds his gloves to the small pile he creates on the countertop space in the workroom. Casting and reloading mechanisms tell of the gunsmithing that occurs here, but they are ignored as he unslings his rifle, setting it in a cabinet amidst the others. He walks through, heading into other areas of the manor, the rooms taking on a more artistic, polished flair. He passes near a small team of people going about their business. They barely take notice of him, the senior woman giving directions to the others as they work at cataloging various items. He moves up the large, curving staircase, each step broad, the impressive structure composed of dark, rich wood. He finally finds him, Scothame, the head of the house, busy at work amongst old books that lie open, bearing their contents in stark contrast to the small bank of slim monitors and other electronic equipment. As though to add to the potentially confusing ambiance, candles and incense leak their leavings into the air. "Everything all right out there, Jericho?" the man speaks, not looking up from peering over the thick tome, studying the pages with a magnifying lens. "Yes." "What about the wolves?" "I told them to go hunt." A moment passes and it seems that this last has gone unheard, but these two men have known each other for decades, and they need not always communicate in obvious words. The other finally looks up from the book's page, setting the glass aside. "Good, good," he says, nodding, then exhales. "Seems neither of us have found anything, though that's not a positive result for me." The taller one merely observes, for just as the outside, the hunt, are his elements, this sanctum is somewhat alien to him, in its role to the other. "Doesn't matter, really," Scothame speaks after a short pause. Then he picks up what appears to be a small, thin, plastic window of sorts, its right side showing advanced gadgetry of electronic equipment and indicator lights. He presses on some of the icons in the graphical interface, then sets the device over the page of the book. A rendering of that same page quickly resolves, a duplicate suspended above itself, given life from the translucent window. "Maybe the analysis program will find something that Sharon." Scope pauses, smiling warmly as the woman enters the room. She wears a uniform that bespeaks of her role as a maid or attendant, her garments pressed and professional, mingling modern utilitarian with an antiquated aesthetic. She holds up a tray on which are balanced two tall glasses bearing blue-grayish thick contents. "Gentlemen," she offers. "Thanks, Sharon," Jericho says, taking the glass, and then she moves to the other, who does the same, offering his thanks with a dip of his head. "Anything else?" she asks, stepping back. "Nothing else, Sharon, thank you," Scotham says, continuing to offer the same warm expression, lips curved within the thinly trimmed goatee, blue eyes crinkled a bit at their sides. "You seem capable of sensing our needs prior to our even asking, anyway." She smiles, taking the compliment, then gives a tiny bow before exiting. Both men sip their blended drinks, swallowing, then look at each other, nodding. A short chuckle is shared between them. "It's good," Jericho comments. "It is." "So what are you working on?" The guardsman peers at the advanced contraption at work over the open book, then glides his eyes to the monitors. The depictions on the screens also obvious signs of work going on within the powerful computer. "More of the same." Jericho gives a nod, vague hints of dissatisfaction taking his expression as he does. He glances about, giving cursory observance to the various analyses taking place. "It's a never-ending battle," he offers. "I suppose they call those wars, came the retort, tempered with a light smile and a perk of the eyebrows. He is greeted with a serious stare. His friend is not bereft of humor, his boisterous laugh well known, but he may just as easily, if not more so, resolve into this quiet intensity. The sudden rising tension is interrupted by a beep from the electronic device analyzing the open book. Scothame blinks, turning thankfully to it, but his expression changes dramatically once he sees what's there. A figure resolves, rising from the device or the book just as easily as it appears to be emerging from nothing. It suggests one of the three-dimensional image which may be rendered by the advanced tool, but some of it is hazy, indistinct, and it continues to increase in size. It has a definite anthropomorphic shape, looking like a person rising from some depths. The two observers do not move. They merely watch, held in awesome silence. Jericho is not familiar with this device, but even he knows this is very much out of the ordinary for its function. He is aware that the gadget is connected to the house's elaborate and powerful network, just as with most every other electronic appliance on the grounds. But he can also tell from the other man's reaction that this is very unexpected. "What in nine hells?" Scothame breathes, looking upon the form as it takes on finer definition, his expression morphing from bewilderment to a more focused study. "Father?" he finally dares to ask. The apparition smiles, moving its head in affirmation. The man's father was not known for being overly exuberant in his expression of emotions, but this is most definitely the very image of the well-respected man, dead now these past 4 years. "Dad?" he tries again, hope painting his voice like daring whispers. Is that really you? What? What's going on? How did you get here? He asked, looking down again at the experimental device still in place over the book, as it dutifully, if not blindly, continues its work. The apparition nods again, still giving the characteristic light, pleasant grin. It rises further, taking on more distinction, even as it shows no more coloring than might a sepia-toned photograph. Can you not speak? He asked it, for the illness that claimed his father took his ability to speak before taking him. The ghostly image shakes his head, and he nods in understanding fashion. Why are you here? He finally asks. The color-starved specter gives a piercing look, though it is still pleasant, like the smile, closing towards him. He dares not move. Then the apparition turns and heads away, passing through the unopened door in slow, hovering locomotion, the two corporeal beings in quick pursuit. Is that really your father? Jericho asked, speaking in an urgent whisper as the two head down the large staircase. I don't know, is the honest response, but it feels like him. I don't know how else to explain it, but regardless, I'm left wondering how this is happening at all, much less who or why. Jericho takes this in with no outward response, merely following, ever watchful. They tail the moving apparition into the impressive library. They see as the entity stops, then turns to them. Is it waiting? Has it come to its intended place? No answer seems forthcoming as it moves no further, just looking at what may be its son, a kind, calm expression on its appearance. The man looks at the books, noting them well. He moves his eyes back but gets nothing more from the apparition. He again looks at the books nearby, scanning them over with rapid, greedy movements of his eyes. I don't understand, he finally admits, looking back at the ghost. Is this? I know these books, but what is it you're trying to tell me? And then he experiences a dawning, as though a chemical recomposition caused the slow spread of heat from a focal point. And that point is the apparition, staring at him, into him. His eyes widen, his form stiffening, and then a hand is placed on his left arm, close to his shoulder. Are you all right, Scout? Comes the voice of his friend and companion. Scothane pulls in a breath through his nose, turning to look at the larger man. I just felt something, as if he spoke to me. Jericho tilts his head, brow furrowing. What? It's one of the 3 books, he exclaims. He says he found it and hid it here in the library. And then Scothane moves quickly, going to nearby shelves, searching, running fingers rapidly over the spines, pushing books aside, seeking for some hidden treasure. What? The other tries again. One of the 3, Scotham speaks from the other side of the bookshelf. I don't know how I know. I don't know how he is even here. But I feel certain he found it before he became ill. Then he hid it here in the library. We must find it. The other man shakes his head, a mute commentary contained in the economic gesture. Then he proceeds to try to help, going about in search amongst the crammed, tall, numerous shelves. How will I even know if I find it? He calls out. You'll know, comes the reply from some ways away in the expansive room. That's not my specialty, Scout. You know that. Hell, if anything, I may be resistant to it. Resistant does not mean deaf. Let's just keep looking, even if you see something that seems out of the ordinary. He gives forth a huff, accompanied by a roll of the eyes, but continues the search. The sudden, sharp intrusion of alarm interrupts their activity. Both stand up straight, startled by the noise. They consult small electronic devices, Scope pulling forth a slim cell phone, the larger man looking at an item buckled upon his wrist. They move to each other. Fire, they say in unison. We have to get out of here, Jericho declares. Damn it, Scotham curses, a pleading look given to his friend. But the book. Don't make me carry you. This can't be a coincidence. Don't make me carry you. And this time it was delivered with a more insistent tinges of threat. Scout's eyes snapped back to the tall guardsman. The fire's on the first floor from the east side. It may even be contained before it gets here. Good. Then it won't damage the books and you can continue your search after we know everything is safe. Now, don't make me... And the words were cut off by the sound of an explosion. He sits outside a safe distance from the burning house. It will take some time for the fire department to arrive, even though they have been alerted and are on their way. He can even hear the sirens, but the estate is located on the outskirts of town, tucked away within the large expanse of privately held land. He does not know when he finally allowed himself to sit, just plopped here on the grass, watching as his home burns. His eyes are glassy, the moist sheen reflecting the chaotic dance of the flames, but he does not cry. His thoughts move from the many valuables inside to the good fortune that so few people were here at all. Sometimes the mansion is filled, but his mother had been spending time with his sister, and his son was off with his friends. He glances over as Mary nears him, the elderly woman acting as chief of staff. He sees the comforting, careful expression. He offers a meager smile. "They'll be here soon. It won't be a total loss," she tries. He nods and glances back at the house. Her assessment is correct, but the fire is already licking and lapping hungrily through the library. Despite the immense value of the possessions in the house, they are insured or backed up. But the main thing that is irreplaceable haunts him. One of the 3 books. With the life he has led, he rarely gives credence to coincidence, and he does not now. The trigger for the fire and explosion relates to the appearance of the apparition and the realization of the immensely important book having been hid away in the library for no telling how long. The book is now ash. He hears a question off a ways, and it taps at his awareness like an annoying nibble. He blinks back into focus, turning to where most of the others are gathered. Not everyone is here. He moves closer to them, eyes searching about. Then he turns, peering in the distance at various angles, and then back at the house. "Jericho!" he calls out, his practiced voice inviting a sudden controlled boom of volume and power. But despite this, there is no reply. So after some time he tries again, calling the name of his old friend. "Jericho!" "There!" someone else calls out, and he jerks his head over to see them point. He follows the angle of the indication, and he sees the unmistakable hulking figure of Jericho lumbering towards them, moving quite quickly, the form enshrouded by flame and smoke. It appears the guardsman is coming from behind the house, perhaps being forced to evacuate from the rear once he had made sure everyone inside was safe. An invaluable friend. Scothame smiles more openly relieved. "Oh, good to see you." "Here's your book," comes the flat interruption, and an object having been carefully cradled by the large man is extended towards him. His eyes gape, disbelief held there even as he reaches to take the proffered item. He holds the rare and valuable tome now in his own hands, looking it over. He gently brushes his right hand over its cover, then turns it, looking at the spine before exhaling in evident relief. It is true. It is the book. One of the 3. Where will this book take our readers? Purchase your copy of Dance of the Butterfly on Amazon today. Remember to leave a review of this beginning at acnbooks.com/indie-beginning or on any one of our social media pages. You can even comment right there on the podcast platform you are listening to. Just use the hashtag IndieBeginningReview. This is the part where you, the listener, becomes part of the program. Your reviews not only let authors know how you've reacted to their work, but also helps them grow as an artist. Also, you may just find yourself on next week's episode. Music found in this episode was written by Jake Cote. He may not be one of Marie and my sons, but he is one of our boys and we couldn't be more proud of him. I am your host Ben, asking everybody to read more books, be the best possible you, and to simply enjoy this wonderful life. Thanks for listening.